Well, it's about time. There is a joke: the past, the present, and the future walked into a bar. It was tense. That playful play on words is actually a pretty accurate description of how we understand, define, and express the concept of time. In fact, that is the definition you would find in a dictionary. All the days that ever were or will be. The concept of time is used to modify or describe things, conditions, or events. Worn becomes time worn. The lock becomes time lock. The zone becomes time zone. The table becomes timetable. And the piece becomes a timepiece. There is much truth to the saying that time changes things. Having a timepiece does not mean that you have a piece of time but only a device with which you can measure it if it is in working condition. A time capsule does not contain time but things associated with a certain period of time. It is sometimes a verb in the sense of timing a race or an exam or a presentation. Sometimes we are pressed for time, yet in a broader sense we do not notice the passing of time most of the time or the changes it imposes on our existence. Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes but when you look back everything is different? Time changes things and changes take time. How much time change takes depends largely on what is being changed. Time provides us with a unique perspective and creates the context in which we assess the importance of the events that affect our lives. We cannot see, smell, taste, hear, or feel time. We see, smell, taste, hear, and feel the effects of time on things, conditions, or events. Yet, we can measure time. We measure the present from moment to moment, hours and minutes down to the millisecond. Walking a mile and running a mile cover the exact same distance. The difference is the time it takes and the amount of energy needed for the movement. Climbing stairs or taking the escalator accomplishes the same thing, yet the amount of energy required is quite different because the escalator compensates for the energy required for movement. We can neither slow down nor speed up the passage of time. Yet we can either fend off or accelerate some of the effects of the passage of time by either slowing ourselves down or speeding ourselves up, whatever the circumstances require. There is a saying, everywhere is within walking distance, if you have the time. Pacing our actions and energy is what helps us to physically deal with the passage of time. We may not notice the extent to which we tend to categorize human characteristics in terms of time. Some people are ahead of their time. Some are behind the times. Some situations are time out of mind or before my time. Music is measured in the sense of timing so many beats per measure. Even our blood pressure and heart rate are measured by the number of events within a certain period of time. Naturally, we measure the past and future in different terms. Millennia and billions of years, centuries and eras and ages and generations and times. We take what we learn from the past, compare it to the present, and extrapolate it into the future in the form of timetables and calendars. We have many methods of measuring the passage of time and keeping track of events that occur within those periods. And they are all accurate in terms of what those cultures consider important. Generally speaking, modern Western culture uses numbers and months as the basis for the 365-day-per-year solar calendar, with those numbers and months repeating every year, and categorizing the passage of 100 of those years as a century. Asian cultures use a lunar aspect for tracking the passage of time. Mesoamerican Mayan culture uses both solar and lunar calculations in what is known as the calendar round, wherein each day in a 52-year cycle has a particular name and characteristic. What may be important to note is that all of these perceptions and measurements of time not only help give us insight into how our past affects what we do in the present moment, they allow us to participate even in events that do not yet exist, except in our minds. Each and every one of us is experiencing the same passage of time. Each of us has a different response to that time passing, and a different expectation of the future, depending on how fast or slowly we believe things to be happening to us, and those around us. Our peace of mind depends on our peace of mind. George Carlin observed, "Have you ever noticed while driving, that anyone going slower than you is an idiot, and anyone going faster than you is a maniac?"